إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل بدعة ضلالة. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek help from Him, and we seek forgiveness from Him. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our souls and the sins that we commit. Whomever Allah guides, no one can misguide, and whomever Allah misguides, no one can guide. I testify that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah alone, who has no partner, and that Muhammad is His slave and messenger alayhi salatu wassalam. Indeed, the best speech is the book of Allah, and the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And the worst things are new things in the religion, and every bid'ah is dalala, it leads us astray. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Which means, for those of you who may not know, because there are many non-Muslims who may watch this or hear of it, As-salam means peace, and it's one of the names of Allah. That's why Islam is a peaceful religion. Islam and salam have one root, and As-salam alaikum means peace be upon you. Wa rahmatullahi means the rahmah, the mercy of Allah, and His blessings, barakatuhu. That's the greeting of Islam. So alhamdulillah, if the greeting of Islam is salam, it can never be accused of being a violent religion, except in some weird mass media who are intent on portraying Islam in a bad way. Today we have the honor and the privilege of being together here tonight, and it's very nice to see you. It's actually a great pleasure. As some ulama used to say, we live for the meetings like this, because these meetings renew our iman, they increase our belief and our practice of Islam, they increase our understanding, and they hopefully will be a cause for us to be saved on the Day of Judgment. And inshallah, we will remember these gatherings in Jannah bi-idhnillah. May Allah admit us all to Jannah. Just before I go to the seerah, the biography of the great Imam Malik rahimahullah, I want to remind of the importance of attending such gatherings, not only in Muslim countries but also in non-Muslim countries. And I say this even in Muslim countries, because the fact that we live in an environment that's not very conducive to, you can say, our religious observance. And even if we were to live next to the Kaaba in Mecca, it's still very important for us to try and attend gatherings like these, not because of the speaker necessarily, but maybe because of the things that we discuss. Because alhamdulillah, we come together to remember the Quran and its teachings, the great book of Allah, and that's the best speech, as the Prophet ﷺ used to say. We come together to remember the Sunnah, or some of it, of the Prophet ﷺ, who was the best of all prophets and messengers, alayhimu salatu wassalam. And we come here to remember the people who are the inheritors of those prophets. And that's the ulama, the scholars, as it is stated clearly by the Prophet ﷺ in more than one hadith, talking about the great position that the scholars of Islam occupy in relation to mankind. And all I need to do is just remind us that the knowledge of Islam, as the Prophet ﷺ said, does not disappear by Allah taking it away from the chests of people. It disappears by the death of scholars. So we can have all these books, but the scholars who live the knowledge and the scholars who practice that knowledge are the real carriers of the knowledge and understanding of Islam. That's why we must try and attend gatherings, because, you know, Ikhwan, I talk about myself. Sometimes we do things, we take our telephone, and now, mashallah, telephone can do almost everything, apart from cooking maybe. And we sometimes spend so much on our telephones. You know, we can watch videos, we can watch this, which is sometimes important also, because we can't always be serious and do things like that, but sometimes we need to relax. But you know, these events don't happen very often. So once a week, maybe once a month, once in a few months. So I'm sure we can all take time off, and you will never regret it. I myself, I don't remember a time I went just to pray, not to event, just to pray to any masjid, except I benefited something. Either I met a nice brother, or I got reminded of something. Something nice happened just by going to the masjid, the mosque, the place of worship for the Muslims. So to come together for the sake of Allah and to see each other, to ask each other about each other, because some of us may need help, some of us may be able to help. Some of us may see our brothers and sisters who are worse off than us and remember that we, alhamdulillah, live better life than them. You know, there are lots of fawaid for coming to the masjid, especially for men. For men, because that's what men should do. They should come to the masjid. And if you prayed, alhamdulillah, you have a little bit of time, instead of maybe watching football or cricket or something like that, the score of which you will know anyway when you get home. You can, inshallah, attend. And this I'm saying to remind us, because sometimes we all humans, we forget. And today we discuss one of the great imams of Islam, who, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, did not set out to be an imam. Like I said about Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, Imam Abu Hanifa, when we were talking about him last week, none of these people, they set out to be imams. None of them said, I want to be an imam, so I'm learning to be an imam. They, like we will see, inshallah, what Imam Shafi'i said himself, Imam Malik from Imam Shafi'i and others, that they set out just to learn the religion for the sake of Allah. And whoever, as you know, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that whoever man tawada'a lillahi rafa'ahu Allah, who humbles himself for Allah, gets elevated, raised by Allah. And who tries to, the other, you can understand from the hadith, which the opposite is what? Who tries to be arrogant, Allah puts him down. So Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he is known as Imam of Darul Hijrah. Darul Hijrah, the city of Hijrah, which is Medina. Al-Madina, which means the city, because it's Madina to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is known as the city. Why? Because it's the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though he wasn't born there. He was born, as you know, alayhi salam, in Mecca. But because in Mecca, the people of Mecca, even though they later embraced Islam, they gave him hard time. His own people. So don't be surprised sometimes when your own family, maybe you have some disagreements, and be patient. Because as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, it's not important how weak you start. It's important how strongly you finish, meaning Allah helps you in the end. So Al-Madinah is known as Al-Madinah, the city. When we go to Medina, we say we're going to Medina. We sometimes forget why it's called Medina. Because in Arabic, Medina means city, just city. They say Madinat Ta'if, Madinat Kada, Madinat this city, that city. But Al-Madinah, the city of the Prophet ﷺ. So Imam Malik, rahimahullah, his name is Malik bin Anas. Malik, son of Anas. He was born in the year 93 after Hijrah. in the year 93 after Hijrah. That is the same year as Anas bin Malik died, rahimahullah, wa radiya anhu. As you know, Anas bin Malik, the servant of the Prophet ﷺ, who lived over 100 years, 100 something years. And when the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, Anas bin Malik was only 10 years of age. So that is the year Imam Malik rahimahullah was born, and he was born into a family that was well off. They were not poor. Many ulama, many scholars are born into poor families. Imam Malik rahimahullah was born into a wealthy family. He was born into a family that didn't need anything, and they looked well after him. And he started teaching at the age of 17. He started teaching at the age of 17. Why? Because Medina, as you know, at the time, and alhamdulillah still remains, one of the centers of knowledge, Islamic knowledge. When we say ilm, knowledge, we mean Islamic knowledge. So, and of course, as I mentioned before, and as the scholars mention, the way of the scholars was and is and still remains that anyone who wants to learn, he would learn from the sheikhs of his city, the local ones, before he would go anywhere else. And also one of the things was that they would start with the Quran. So they considered the Quran more important to learn, and then they would go to hadith and other things. And that's how Imam Malik rahimahullah did as well. However, he was not permitted to give fatwa, because there is a difference between teaching some book or something and to give fatwa, until he reached the age of 40 years of age. Age of 40, so there's a difference of 27 or 23 years rather, between the time he started teaching and the time he was authorized by more than 70 of the ulama. He said that before I could give fatwa, I asked more than 70 of the ulama, of the scholars, about it, and they approved of me to give that. Only then did I start giving fatwa. So Imam Malik, just to show his great position, is one of the contemporaries, even though he's younger than Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. But Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa shared some of the students. So some of the people who used to learn from Imam Abu Hanifa, they learned also with Imam Malik rahimahullah. And that's how people used to do. They used to learn from different ulama. That's how the ulama, the real ulama, now do. They want to know the views of different ulama on the same issue. Why? Because they may find some fa'idah, some benefit with this alim that they don't find with the other one. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, the knowledge goes with the ulama. So if it was only in the books, the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't have said it. So the scholars explained that hadith, and they said that each scholar, each alim, has some knowledge and understanding that the other one doesn't. So that's why it's very important for us to value the ulama. And I don't mean the people, like I said to you before, no offense to anyone, who have done alim course. Yani that is, in my view, is not correct to call that alim course. That's my personal opinion. It doesn't reflect the opinion of the masjid, as they say in some disclaimers. It doesn't reflect anyone else's opinion. That's my personal opinion. I don't believe that 5 years of study authorizes a kid of 20 years of age to be called alim, or 22, and let alone imam. We have that problem. I know, because I know by myself. So imam is not easy word, subhanallah. Imam in the masjid is different to imam in the deen. So I'm talking about not imam of the masjid. We have some problem in the Muslims. They call each other imams and things before they reach that position. So Imam Shafi'i is one of the students of Imam Malik. So what do you think? Always you can judge the alim by the students. Imam Shafi'i, inshallah, we'll talk about him, I think, next week, because he comes, inshallah, next. He used to say about Imam Malik, rahimahumullah, Malik muallimi wa anhu akhadtu al-ilm. That Malik is my teacher and I took the knowledge from him. And that's also from being grateful to the scholars, to the ulama. And also, ikhwan, as I always say, and the scholars teach us, look at these great people. They take the knowledge, and yet when they see that their sheikh didn't follow the sunnah, not deliberately in something, they don't follow them. Their number one priority is the sunnah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them imams. So they used to love the Prophet ﷺ more than any other people alive at that time, and they used to show that by following it. So Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah also said, إِذَا ذُكِرَ الْعُلَمَاءُ فَمَالِكُ النَّجْمُ. When the ulama are mentioned, then Malik is the star. And he used to say, Imam Shafi'i, لَوْلَا مَالِكُ وَابْنُ عُيَيْنَةَ لَذَهَبَ عِلْمُ الْحِجَازِ. If it were not for Malik and Ibn Uyayna, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, rahimahumullah, the knowledge of Al-Hijaz, Makkah and Medina would have gone. That's how they used to value these people. And Ibn Wahab, one of the great Imams who studied with Imam Malik, he said, rahimahullah, سمعت مالكا يقول, I heard Malik saying, ما تعلمت العلم إلا لنفسي. I didn't learn all the knowledge that I have except for myself. Meaning not to be Imam, not to show off, not to have disputes, but for myself. Meaning what? To know what is right and wrong. Then people started asking and things like that. وَمَا تَعَلَّمْتُ لِيَحْتَاجَ النَّاسُ إِلَيَّ. And I didn't learn so people need me and come to me. So that shows the ikhlas. وَكَذَلِكَ كَانَ النَّاسِ. And that's how people used to do. Meaning the real ulama, they don't learn to say, I'm Imam, I'm Hafiz. Some people, I told you before in many classes, they present themselves, I'm Hafiz Muhammad. And you memorize Quran for me? That's not correct. Memorizing Quran is one step forward. The other step is to understand it, and the third step to practice it. Then alhamdulillah, maybe you Hafiz, maybe. And this is how the Imams used to be. They used to be very humble. And Ibn Wahab, one of the great students of Imam, the same man, rahimahullah, he used to say, لولا أني أدركت الليث ومالكا لضللت. If I were not to be with Al-Layth, the great alim from Egypt, and Malik from Medina, I would have gone astray. Why? Because if you don't follow the ulama who explain it very easily, your few years of research and study, they can explain in 5 minutes. He said, I would have gone astray. That's Imam saying. Imam Malik rahimahullah used to say, because you judge a person by what he says and does. Imam Malik rahimahullah used to say, Junnatul alim la adri. He said, the shield of a scholar is I don't know. Not shield of a student of knowledge. Shield of a scholar who reached the top. La adri. I don't know. Meaning he has to have that shield. When he doesn't know, he shields himself. He says, I don't know. فَإِذَا أَغْفَلَهَا أَوْ أُغْفِلَهَا أُصِيبَتْ مَقَاتِلُهُ. So when he forgets it, he can be hit in his places where he can be hit lethally. Meaning he starts answering questions, the answer to which he doesn't know. They're humans. And also one of his students said, سَمِعْتُ مَالِكًا, I heard Malik being asked, سُئِلَ عَنْ 48 مَسْأَلَةً. He was asked about 48 things. 48 questions you can say, or issues. فأجاب في 32 منها لا أدري. So out of 48, in 32 he said, I don't know. This not because to show off, like I told you before. They, the real ulama, the real scholars, and if you find one, you should stick to him and not let him go. Stay with him. Like Ibn al-Qayyim rahmahullah did with his Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah. He asked for the ruler to imprison him with his Shaykh, so he can spend time with him in the prison. Because he was afraid he would die there. He wouldn't get some time and some fa'idah which will help him for the rest of his life. So Imam Malik and others rahimahumullah, whom Allah raised, the reason they were raised is exactly because of that. That the things they didn't know or they were not sure about, they used to say, I don't know. And also Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, the great student of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, said, ما رأيت أعلم من أبي حنيفة ومالك وابن أبي ليلى. I have never seen anyone more knowledgeable than Abu Hanifa, Malik and Ibn Abi Layla. May Allah have mercy on all of them. And Ibn al-Mubarak rahimahullah, Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, he used to say, ما رأيت أحدا ارتفع مثل مالك. I have never seen anyone whom Allah raised like Malik. ليس له كثير صلاة ولا صيام. He doesn't have much salah or siyam or fasting, much prayer or much fasting. إلا أن تكون له سريرة. It's something inside. Meaning, how can Allah just raise someone without much ibadah, much salah, much fasting? Like they used to say about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that he didn't become the best of the Sahaba by praying more than anyone else, or by fasting more than other people, but by what was inside, meaning his great belief and his great practice, his great understanding, and therefore his actions. And Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, because I took this from the great book of Imam Al-Dhahabi, may Allah reward him and have mercy on him. He wrote a very good book, very big book in many parts, about biographies of very known and great individuals in Islam, including scholars. And he said, commenting on this, what Ibn al-Mubarak said, rahimahullah, he said, ما كان عليه من العلم ونشره أفضل من نوافل الصوم والصلاة لمن أراد به الله. He said, what he used to do from knowledge and spreading it is better than the nawafil, the non-obligatory prayers and fasting, for whoever does it for the sake of Allah. Meaning, who does it ikhlas, then for them it's better to, because why? The Salaf all used to say that. In Imam al-Dhahabi rahmallah, he's just repeating what the great predecessors used to say. Why? Because when you spread knowledge, when you have it and you spread it and you teach others and understanding, you protect their religion, which is the most important thing. There are many things that threaten that. And when you pray and fast, that's only for you. Does it mean you don't pray and fast? No, you do, but you pray and fast maybe as much as you necessarily can, but the other time you dedicate to teaching the people if you can. That's for the scholars. And it's very important. So Imam Malik rahimahullah, he is very famous for a number of great expressions, and that is the sign of the true scholars. When they speak, as some scholars said, as if it's taken from the same source as the prophethood, min mishkat al-nubuwah. So Imam Malik rahimahullah said, أَكُلَّمَا جَاءَنَا رَجُلٌ أَجْدَلُ مِنْ رَجُلٍ تَرَكْنَا مَا نَزَلَ بِهِ جِبْرِيلٌ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ لِجَدَلِهِ. Every time a man comes to us who can argue better than another man, we leave what Jibreel brought to the Prophet ﷺ for the sake of that man who can argue very well. What does it mean? Very simple. We know the Sunnah, alhamdulillah. We don't argue, because nowadays, even before, but now is more, because the more there is less knowledge, the more arguments exist. Many brothers and sisters, like I said before, they like arguing for everything. They just like arguing. They didn't used to like arguing. A man came to Imam Malik rahimahullah, said, I want to have a debate with you. He said, I don't want to have a debate with you. He said, why? He said, because I don't need it. I am not in doubt about my religion. If you in doubt, go check your religion, come back. So that's how they used to educate their students, that like I said before, and that's how the ulama teach us, the real scholars. If you learn knowledge, it shouldn't be for debating. And the Prophet mentioned it in a hadith narrated by Imam Ibn Majah and others, and some ulama authenticated it, that a person who seeks knowledge to debate, among other reasons, he's going to the hellfire. So it's severe warning. Another famous statement that Imam Malik rahimahullah is known for is his reply, which they say is taken and it can be traced back to the Sahaba. His reply, like among others Ibn Abbas and Salama, his reply to a man who came and said, Allah said, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa. That Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, Allah, has risen over the throne. كيف استوى? How did he rise? And he answered in a nice way, which many people quote differently, but the meaning is the same, that al-istiwa'u ghayru majhul, the rising is not unknown, which means very important to understand. In the Arabic language, when you say istawa, he rose, is known, the meaning of it is known, meaning Allah, when he says istawa, the Arabs understand what he means. وَالْكَيْفُ غَيْرُ مَعْلُومٍ. But how is not known, because Allah didn't tell us. Al-imanu bihi ay bil istiwa. Wajib, to believe in the istiwa, in the fact that Allah rose over the throne, is obligatory. Why? Because Allah said it. So we must believe in everything that Allah said in the Quran. وَالسُّؤَالُ عَنْهُ أي عَنِ الْكَيْفِ بِدْعَةٌ. And to ask about how Allah rose over the throne is an innovation, bid'ah. And he ordered that this man must be removed from the masjid. Because at that time no one used to ask such things. Like now someone comes and says, why should I pray 5 times? We would say, A'udhu Billah, what's this? Every Muslim knows that. So for them it was a shock to ask such things. They never used to ask. They never used to ask how, and any questions that Allah didn't say, they just believe. Because they don't want problems. Because the saying of a believer, as Allah said, is we hear and we obey. And if something we don't understand, we ask the scholars, the ulama. Also he rahmahullah used to say, كُلٌّ يُؤْخَذُ مِنْ قَوْلِهِ وَيُرَدْ. Every person's saying can be accepted or rejected, according meaning to how it is in accordance with the sunnah, with the way of the Prophet ﷺ. إِلَّا صَاحِبْ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ. And he pointed, except he said the person buried here, and he pointed to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. Meaning, whatever the Prophet ﷺ said, we don't have a choice to accept or reject. Otherwise, there is no point for him to be sent by Allah. If we have a choice, meaning, if we say we are Muslims, we must accept what the Prophet ﷺ said. Because it is better for us. Because Allah said, obey Allah in the masjid so that you may get rahmah. So may you get mercy. Many people say, Allah arhamna, Allahumma arhamna. Allah have mercy on us, they don't follow the sunnah. That's one of the ways, greatest way to find mercy, rahmah. So Imam Malik rahimahullah, he also said, إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرْ أُخْطِئُ وَأُصِيبُ. I'm just a human being. I make mistakes and I'm right sometimes. فانظروا في رأيي. So look into my opinions. فكل ما وافق الكتاب والسنة فخذوه. So everything that agrees with the book and the sunnah, take it. وكل ما لم يوافق الكتاب والسنة فاتركوه. And anything that doesn't agree with the book and the sunnah, leave it. Also Ibn Wahb, the same as he's one of the greatest students of Imam Malik rahimahullah, he said, سمعت مالكا سئل عن تخليل أصابع الرجلين في الوضوء. He said, I heard Malik rahimahullah being asked about the permissibility or whether it was sunnah to rub or to wash between the toes of the feet in wudu, in ablution, in washing for the prayer. فقال ليس ذلك على الناس. He said, you don't have to do it. قال فتركته حتى خف الناس. He said, so I left him and I waited until there were less people. فقلت له عندنا في ذلك سنة. So his student said to him, I have something from the sunnah on that. قال وما هي? And what is that sunnah? قلت حدثنا الليث بن سعد وابن لهيعة وعمر بن الحارث عن يزيد بن عمرو المعافري عن أبي عبد الرحمن الحبلي أو الحبلي عن المستورد بن شداد القرشي قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يدلك بخنصره ما بين أصابع رجليه. So he gave him a chain of narration to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that he used to use his little finger to do that between his toes. فقال إن هذا الحديث حسن. Straight away he said this chain is a good chain of narration. وما سمعت به قط إلا الساعة. He said, and I've never heard of it except right now. ثم سمعته بعد ذلك يسأل فيأمر بتخليل الأصابع. Then after that I heard him ask the same question and he used to tell them to do it. And this shows the humbleness of the scholars. And a real scholar is the one who submits to the sunnah, because even if it is your student who says it, if it comes from the sunnah and it is authentic, then of course you have to follow it. And Imam Malik, as you know probably, is the author of the great book Al-Muwatta, or the Trodden Path. It is to do with the sunnah. And before Bukhari and Muslim, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah used to say, I don't know any book more authentic and better than Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik. That book Al-Muwatta has about, and one of the facts is that Al-Muwatta has about 500 ahadith and 700 fatwa of Imam Malik. So if you want to know the opinions of Imam Malik, you can look in his book Al-Muwatta. It's available. And I think I've even seen an English translation. Not a very good translation, I've looked through it. But still it's a translation, you can understand some of it. But it's a great book. After Bukhari and Muslim, you don't really need it in terms of hadith, but you need it in terms of knowing the opinions of Imam Malik rahimahullah. So it's important to go back to that book to see what Imam Malik used to believe. Because some people say that it is from the way of Imam Malik. I've heard it myself and I've talked to people like that. To not put your hands like this when you're praying, on your chest or on your stomach or below. It is just better to stand like this without taking your left hand with your right hand. And they say this is Imam Malik, and it is better, they say, than to do like this, to take your and put them together, your hands. And of course it's not correct, because Imam Malik rahimahullah in Muwatta, there's a chapter entitled Putting the Hands Together on the Chest. He used to consider that it is from the Sunnah to put the hands together on the chest, and he brought some dalil for that, some proofs from the Sunnah, and his own opinions and opinions of some of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And of course he had his own share of problems in his life, and that's how Allah tests the scholars and the believers, especially the scholars. One of his tests was that his book Al-Muwatta was asked by the Khalifa, by the ruler, to be made the constitution, so to speak, or applicable to all of the Muslim lands, the whole of the Muslim, you can say, empire or state. And Imam Malik refused, rahimahullah, because he said the Sahaba have gone to different places. So there are things, he said, I don't know, but they exist. So I can't force someone who has a sunnah, that's the way of the ulama, to force him to follow my opinion because he has a sunnah and I don't have. Meaning that some Sahaba went to far places and I maybe couldn't reach, and it is true, as it was proven later. So we can't force everyone to follow Al-Muwatta, despite what some people say now. And before, those who exaggerate about Imam Malik and other Imams, rahimahumullah, they say, some of them in Arabic, لَوْلَا Malik لَكَانَ الدِّينَ هَالِكَ. If not for Malik, the religion would be lost. Yes, if you mean by in the sense of scholar, yes, Allah keeps this religion through the scholars. But if you mean that only Malik, rahimahullah, through him Allah saved the deen, no, there were other ulama as well. And another problem that he encountered, and of course these people were very serious about the things they said and did. Another thing was that one of the khulafa of his time, he said, who doesn't give me bay'ah, who doesn't pledge allegiance to me, I want you to give a fatwa, meaning Malik, rahimahullah, that he is divorced from his wife. So everyone is laughing, so you don't need to be alim to know that it's wrong. I think the local butcher can give you fatwa for that. That it's wrong. So Imam Malik said, I can't give fatwa like that. That's not correct. There's nothing to do with wife. If I don't give you bay'ah, what's my wife got to do with it? Imagine if you have 2, 3, 4 wives, it's a problem. For some it may be a solution, but for some it's a problem. So he said, I can't give fatwa like that. And of course for that he was punished. But they are ready to accept this punishment, because once you start changing the religion of Allah to suit people's desires, that's a very dangerous path. That's the path that led other people to deviation. So these ulama, they know where to be flexible and where to be firm. And some say in the history books that he was punished and beaten to the extent that he couldn't raise his hands to do like this, and that's one of the reasons they say he could not pray. So if these brothers who they also beaten, then I can understand. But if they are not beaten, and alhamdulillah I've never seen them beaten, and we should discuss nicely with them, they're our brothers. And we should be nice to them and say that the sunnah is to put the hands like this, because if you don't, it reduces the reward of your prayer. It doesn't invalidate it, but it reduces the reward of your prayer, and it can lead to bad things. It can lead to very bad bid'ah, because the Rafida also pray like that, the Shia. And that's a different thing. I think tomorrow there is a nice seminar in Green Lane Masjid by Shaykh Uthman al-Khamis, Jazahullah khairah, on that issue. It's very nice, and may Allah reward him for doing it, to know the beliefs of the Shia and of the Rafida. And I advise you to go. It's in Birmingham, in Green Lane Masjid, if you can. Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, Imam Al-Dhahabi, who himself is an Imam of Quran, he's Imam of Qira'at, he's Imam of Hadith, he's Imam of Seerah, history and biographies. He said, after saying this about Imam Malik, he said, فَهَؤُلَاءِ الْمُسَمَّوْنَ فِي هَذِهِ الطَّبَقَةِ هُمْ ثِقَاتُ الْحُفَّاظِ. The ones I've mentioned, he said, in this category of great scholars are the authentic people who memorized hadith, وَلَعَلَّنَا قَدْ أَهْمَلْنَا طَائِفَةً مِّن نُظَرَائِهِمْ. And I fear, he said, that maybe I have left some who I should have mentioned along with them. فإن المجلس الواحد في هذا الوقت كان يجتمع فيه أزيد من 10,000 محبرة. Because one sitting of hadith in those times, he said, more than 10,000 people used to come together. And he said mahbara, to show ink pot. And that they used to bring the ink, and more than 10,000 ink pots used to come. Meaning maybe more than that attending actually, because just writing 10,000. يكتبون الآثار, they used to write the آثار, the hadith النبوية, ويعتنون بهذا الشأن. And they used to pay great attention to this, to the science of hadith. وبينهم, and between these people attending, نحو من 200 imam. Used to be more than 200 imams among them. قد برزوا وتأهلوا للفتية. They already reached the level of imam, and they already were qualified to give fatwa. فلقد تفانى أصحاب الحديث وتلاشوا وتبدل الناس. So the people, he's saying regretfully, and that you find many times in the writings of Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah. He said that the people who, Ashabul Hadith, the people who seek Hadith and pay attention to Hadith, have become few and almost disappeared, and people have changed, he said. That's in his time. بطلبة, by students, he said, يهزأ بهم أعداء الحديث والسنة. By students, he's talking about his time, who are laughing stock of the enemies of hadith and sunnah. I don't know what we say now. ويسخرون منهم, and they laugh at them. وصار علماء العصر في الغالب, and most of the scholars of our time, عاكفين على التقليد في الفروع من غير تحرير لها. They just confine themselves to following what they find in the books of fiqh without thinking and analyzing them. ومكبين على عقليات من حكمة الأوائل, and they also studying the philosophy of the wisdom of the ancient people. وآراء المتكلمين, and the theologists, the opinions of theologists, من غير أن يتعقلوا أكثرها, without understanding most of what they are reading. فعم البلاء, so that has created many problems among the Muslims. واستحكمت الأهواء, and the desires have become entrenched in the people. ولاحت مبادئ رفع العلم وقبضه من الناس. And he said the signs of knowledge being removed and taken from the people have appeared. فَرَحِمَ اللَّهُ امْرَأً, so may Allah have rahmah, mercy upon a man, أَقْبَلَ عَلَى شَأْنِهِ, he looks at himself and analyzes himself. وَقَصَّرَ مِنْ لِسَانِهِ, and he controls his tongue. وَأَقْبَلَ عَلَى تِلَاوَةِ قُرْآنِهِ, and he paid and turned his attention to reciting his Quran. وَبَكَى عَلَى زَمَانِهِ, and he weeps over the time that he lives in, meaning that it's very sad to find so few scholars. وَأَدْمَنَ النَّظَرَ فِي الصَّحِيحَيْنِ, and he keeps looking into the two sahihs of Bukhari and Muslim. وَعَبَدَ اللَّهَ, and he keeps worshipping Allah. قَبْلَ أَنْ يَبْغَتَهُ الْأَجَلِ, before suddenly death comes to him. Because death comes, as you know, suddenly. Like illness. They say, you know, this illness, subhanAllah, this time. When is time welcome illness? MashaAllah, now I can be ill. No time. Illness always comes suddenly and when we don't want. the same death. So he said, Allahumma fawaffiq warham. Oh Allah, then enable us to do it and have rahmah on us. So that's how the scholars used to view. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah used to say, النظر في سيرة أو سير الأوائل, to look into the biographies of the scholars before. And of course he lived, as I said, in the time of some of the younger Sahaba. He used to say rahimahullah, to look into and benefit from the biographies of the people who were before us, أحب إلينا من نوافل العبادات, is more beloved to me than to worship Allah with nafila, with nawafil, with non-obligatory things. Why? Because when we read their biographies, we benefit greatly from their opinions, from their positions, how they used to behave, and how they used to understand, and how much they look at all the imams we used to have in Islam, and we say the 4 imams. What is the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised them? Because of those things, that some of which I have mentioned from the biographies of these great people. So the biographies, when we read, we should try and benefit from them. And especially when we live in non-Muslim environments, or where Muslims are minorities and scholars are few or non-existent, we should try and come together to these gatherings, because this is the closest we're going to get maybe to the scholars, or go and see their students, the ulama who send their students. And we should try and take things that they say, and if they make a mistake, we should excuse them and say, may Allah forgive them, and they're just humans, like Imam Malik and Abu Hanifa and others used to say. Imam Malik rahimahullah, as I said, was born in the year 93 after Hijrah. He died in the year 179 after Hijrah, having lived 86 years. So he lived a long life, full life, and he used to teach and spread the sunnah to the best of his ability. And also you will notice that as the scholars used to progress, you know, Bukhari and Muslim are not considered from the 4 imams. But they did something that the 4 imams didn't do. So every person, and even that was present among the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, that some of them were known for things that even Abu Bakr and Umar didn't do. Like the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't mention Abu Bakr and Umar, may Allah be pleased with them, among the Qurra, yani the people who we should take Quran from. He mentioned some people, like Ubay ibn Ka'ab and others. But Abu Bakr and Umar were the best. Today we were talking with the brothers, and we said that Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet said, Aminu hadhi al-ummah. He's the most trustworthy of this ummah. But also you could trust any one of the others. And it doesn't mean you can't trust anyone else. So that I'm saying to show that the hikmah, the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ, who was guided by Allah, that each one had something that the other person maybe didn't have. The same with the 4 imams. The people who came after them, they did some things which the 4 imams didn't do. So the hadith books that we have now, they didn't exist in that time. That's a very important point. Why is it important? Because Imam Malik, if he had Sahih al-Bukhari, he wouldn't author al-Muwatta. Why? Because the scholars author for 2 main reasons. They write books, not like now everyone writes. Who has a keyboard, he writes. Because that's all you need. You don't have to be sheikh. You're just somewhere in Antarctica with the penguins, you can send the book somewhere. Because you have internet connection. So the ulama generally write for one of 2 reasons. Either someone asks them to do it, And that's one of the reasons you see many books authored. Sahih Muslim, at the beginning he said, someone asked me. Ibn Taymiyyah, most of his books like that. Yani most books you see like that. That's very, very often that the ulama, someone asks them, either someone they love from their family, or someone who is a student of theirs, or a scholar, they're equal, and he says, like Imam al-Bukhari, do you know the reason he wrote his Sahih? He said, I was in the gathering of Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawai, one of his sheikhs. And he said to us in the gathering, his sheikh, I wish someone made a book and only included Sahih Hadith in it. So he said, it felt, I remembered it. Imam Bukhari is saying. So I kept thinking about it. Until I thought, maybe I can do it. Then he said, I asked the ulama. And so on. Look, that Imam al-Bukhari didn't just start by himself. So his sheikh, sometimes the student, sometimes, that's one of the reasons. A second reason the scholars author books is when they themselves see a need. Many ulama, they authored refutations when they saw that some innovators, they're trying to corrupt the beliefs of the Muslims. So they authored refutation of this, refutation of that. It's just scholars, not some young people. So that's why we have to understand that when we talk about the four schools of thought, we have to have that in the background, that the four schools of thought were before the books of hadith. So that means that some of the ahadith we find in the books of hadith definitely didn't reach them. And that means that they themselves said, when you find my saying to be against hadith, or not correct, or agreeing with the hadith, with the saying of the Prophet ﷺ, then leave my saying. That's very important to know. May Allah have rahmah on all of the ulama and all of the Muslims, and help us to be like them, those who inherit from the Prophets alayhimu salatu wassalam. And may Allah enable us to be with them in Jannah and with the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, the question, did Imam Malik make ta'wil in the sifat? Just explain a few things. Ta'wil means two things. One, good ta'wil, meaning to explain something correctly. One, bad ta'wil is to explain something incorrectly or interpret something incorrectly. And I believe this is the second meaning that is meant by this question. And sifat means the attributes of Allah, like His hand, face, and the fact that He rose over the throne and things like that. As far as I know from what I said, he didn't used to make any ta'wil in sifat. His creed and belief was in accordance with the Sahaba and who came after them and who followed the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And he used to oppose the people who used to do that.